What's up, guys? My name is Max. I was in the Navy for almost 14 years. A lot of that time I spent as a drone pilot working for Naval Special Warfare, where I deployed with Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Air Force Special Forces, Marine Special Forces, international units from around the world in Iraq and Afghanistan. Today we're going to be analyzing clips from movies that feature drones, and we're going to say whether or not they're realistic. This is the Scuttlebutt. All right, so this right here is Act of Valor. This was a movie made in 2012 starring actual Navy SEALs and other naval personnel, naval forces, and it was a movie about what Navy SEALs are capable of. It might have been a movie trying to recruit people for the Navy SEALs as well. I thought it was pretty good. A lot of people didn't like it, but it does feature in this opening sequence here a really cool sequence of drone shots, drone uses. Oh, by the way, this might be a good time to let you guys know the official term, if you're a professional, is not drone. It's UAS or UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle or unmanned aircraft system. So commonly you might hear the word drone, but it's not the professional term that the military uses, but I'll use drone for the purposes of this video. If we go back and rewind this a little bit, so he just launched a Raven aircraft. The Raven is a very small handheld aircraft made by a company called AeroVironment. It is hand launchable, backpack, portable, and it can be controlled by one person, assembled, flown by one person. It can easily be launched from a ship like this. He gives it quite a toss, and you see it kind of go straight up vertically, and that is basically how it goes. These things will go almost straight up in the air after they're launched, and then they can fly around for maybe 20 or 30 minutes. But I'm looking at the screen here, and I can tell you that the screen that you're looking at is 100% not realistic. If I break down what I'm seeing here, it is a screen with an altitude on the right. I don't know what those numbers are supposed to represent. Hundreds of feet. MSL, I'm assuming. MSL is altitude above sea level. AGL is altitude above the ground. Both of those matter a lot. On the right, you have some, what looks like coordinates, lat longs, but we would use MGRS, Military Grid Reference System. And you have some more coordinates down there on the bottom right. What those coordinates on the bottom right look like are actually, you have two sets of coordinates on a screen like this for a drone, which is, one is where the aircraft is, and the other one is what the target is. So if I look at the bottom right there, you see you've got a north and a west, looks like lat longs again, a bearing, range, another range, target width, bearing, and elevation. So if I'm breaking this down, you've got your lat long on top, a blank bearing, which probably is the bearing from the aircraft camera to the ground, then another bearing which is probably from the pilot to the aircraft. Then you've got the range, which is probably how far the target is, what you're seeing on your screen from where the aircraft is, but it's saying 1 meter, which that aircraft is already above 1 meter, I can tell looking at this. The target width is 33 meters. In other words, the width of the sensor, what you're seeing on your screen, the width of the image, it tries to estimate that and tell you how wide it is. It's good for measuring buildings or roads or anything like that, passageways, waterways. If I was to interpret that though, what it's saying is this aircraft's only 1 meter above the ground, but can see 33 meters of the ground, which doesn't make any sense. It would probably only be able to see about 6 feet. So totally unrealistic there. Another bearing, which I don't know, 2,968, it's probably a completely made up, erroneous number, doesn't really mean anything. And the elevation, 17 meters, that is more likely to be the elevation of the, if that's the target data, that's the elevation of the target in mean sea level or above ground, or above sea level altitude of the target. So let's say you're climbing a mountain, you're at the top of the mountain, you're at 5,000 feet, but you're standing on the ground, you're at 5,000 feet MSL. So that elevation is probably the target in MSL. On the bottom looks like a compass, and on the top is just nonsense. HOR, 3 lines. You've got standard. On the top right there, to the right of that, you've got standard. NGT, maybe that means a night or something. and then THR, which I would assume means throttle, but there's no indicator there of what the throttle is actually set to. So most of this information on the screen is meaningless nonsense, jibber jabber that they put in to make it look cool. Okay, so all of those little things that just popped up on the screen are not real. I don't know what they're supposed to be. Tracking dots, something to track movement. None of that's realistic. The Raven doesn't have any of that capability. It's just like anything else. They throw a lot of this high-tech stuff in there to make things look cooler than they are, but that aircraft is actually not that high-tech. It's pretty low-tech, as a matter of fact, as far as these systems go. The Raven is fairly low-tech. You saw it up there. It's flying towards the target. One thing I'd be worried about here is what's called burning the target, aka making a lot of noise, because that drone makes a very high-pitched high-pitched buzzing sound from the propellers as it flies by. It's battery powered, but the actual propeller spinning makes a high-pitched buzzing sound, and if it flies too close to the target at too low of an altitude, it can either be seen or heard quite easily.
Whiplash, this is Blackbeard.
Radio check, over. Blackbeard, Whiplash. Have you loud and clear. Standing by on the set.
Roger, Whiplash. What is your ETA to my pause?
ETA 20 mics. Be advised, Raven is in flight and pushing to your location.
What they're doing is they're checking in the pilot or the crew on the boat, which is probably a SWIC boat. This film was actually shot in Stennis, Mississippi. So they actually do SWIC training out there. So those are SWIC boats and SWIC crewmen out there. So the pilot's checking in with the lieutenant there, letting him know that Raven's coming in. If I was the lieutenant, I would want, if that was me on the ground, I would want Raven to stand pretty far off, create a far standoff, because you don't want to burn the target, like I said earlier. So I would tell them, hey, don't bring that Raven in too close, or at least tell me what altitude it is at and how far away you plan on being. Give me some more information about where it's going to be flying, because that information they gave him right there is not enough on its own.
Whiplash, this is Blackbeard. I have positive control of the Raven.
So I don't know what that piece of tech is that he's holding in his hand. There are ways to remote monitor drone footage, and there are ways to take remote control of a drone, but that ain't it, Chief. So he's using something, it's definitely some movie magic going on here. It's extremely unlikely that in a SEAL fire team like that, the lieutenant would have the ability to control the Raven, that he would be qualified as a pilot. Normally one of the junior SEALs would take that job, but in actual reality, there's so few people on this mission that the odds in my mind of one of them not doing their job as a shooter, as a SEAL, and doing the job of a drone pilot is extremely unlikely. More likely scenario is he would just be monitoring the footage, not controlling the Raven at all.
Chief, hold.
1 o'clock, base of the tower.
Got him. You're clear to the door.
Somebody was moving in on that house, and he let them know, hold up, I've got somebody there. They were able to find that person with the drone locked onto him. Again, the Raven doesn't have that technology. That technology exists in other aircraft, but not in the Raven. And what he did was he said, hey, hold, we need to take care of this problem that we have here. He gave the location, the kind of bearing the relative bearing of where that person was to them. The sniper was able to take him out and protect that shooter who was moving in right there, the assaulter. And I'd say that that's somewhat realistic of what the job is of an ISR pilot, a drone pilot for the military. Your job is to look at what the people on the ground can't see. So you're not going to look directly in front of the person who's already on the ground. You're going to be scanning around a much bigger perimeter, looking out for other threats and things that the people on the ground can't see, because they have eyes, they're paying attention, they can see what's going on. Your job is to be able to give them a picture of what they can't see with their eyes. So that's a good example of the drone pilot doing exactly all the wrong things. I realize that they're trying to show off the SEALs here, but if this was real life, the drone pilot would not be locking on to the actual assaulters with the target tracking and everything like that. They would be performing circles around the target with a really wide radius because they don't want to burn the target, and they want to be looking out for things like squirters, enemy QRF, anything that they are not aware of right there. But looking directly at your team is absolutely the wrong thing to do.
out the back door.
So now that is exactly what the drone is there for. Again, it's not realistic that the lieutenant is flying this, but that's more what it's there for. So the assaulters went in. Unfortunately, one of them was wounded in that initial contact when they went inside the house, and the pilot called 2 squirters. Squirters is a term used when you have enemy combatants who are fleeing a location to go out and run maybe in separate directions or just run from one spot to another. We would call those squirters. What the drone would do then, since they went in different directions, is probably pick one who seems to be the greatest threat and follow that one. If you try to follow both, you're probably going to lose both. But if you follow one, yes, you're going to lose one, but you will be able to follow another. So probably what he would do is peel his eyes off of the building, which he shouldn't have been looking at in the first place, most likely, and then follow that one squirter and see where he goes.
Wyoming, 11 o'clock, driver's side truck. Got him.
So there you go. It looks like he followed one squirter who tried to run to a vehicle to get away. He was able to take a shot on that squirter in the driver's seat. So the sniper at least knew where to look because he has to get a good idea of where to initially look. So the drone did its job there and provided info on where the squirters were going to eliminate that threat. But now there's still going to be one guy out there running around. But at least now you know as the drone pilot, hey, we had one squirter, we eliminated that one. There is at least one more running around out there.
Healthy. Chief, looks like you have 2 aggressor vehicles approaching from the north. About 1 mic out. You can take the truck outside the west door, meet us at extract.
So that's another great example of what the drone is there to do. The drone pilot was flying around, saw enemy QRF vehicles, 2 trucks coming in, gave the people inside the house the situational awareness of what's going on outside the house, where the enemy is, what the enemy is, when they're going to arrive, and what the best exfil route for the people inside the house is. Take the truck and use that as a getaway vehicle. That's exactly what a drone pilot's supposed to be doing. Good job there.
Whiplash, we have enemy QRF approaching from the north.
Roger, you have enemy QRF coming in from the north.
Chief, you need to start your exfil now.
So this is another great example right here. There's a saying in the military of the biggest weapon you can carry into the battlefield is your radio. So what he did was great. He called the SWIC crew. He let them know what's going on. He called the people inside the house. He gave them an update. Hey, there's some urgency here. You guys have got to get out of there right now because enemies are coming in. So you don't want to be the guy at the top with a secret. That's never who you want to be. So you want to disseminate information as much as possible, especially if you're an ISR pilot. That drone has no weapons capabilities. It can't take out those targets by itself. So the only thing that he can do to affect what's going on and maybe take it out is to communicate where and what it is so that somebody else with a weapon system that's appropriate can eliminate the threat. Great job. So they're on the exfil right now. Obviously, you saw the drone pilot there just running away. He's got a rocket launcher on his back. One thing that they don't talk about here is what happened to the drone. You've got to deal with that thing. It is not able to land in the water, and you certainly can't just lose it. Its flight time would be about up by now. It needs a battery change if it wants to get back into the air, or it needs to be recovered because losing that would be a really big mess. You would have a lot of explaining to do as to why you lost your drone on that mission. You would be filling out what's called a survey or DD-200 for a high value lost item, and it would turn into a real nightmare. So I do wonder what happened to that poor little drone up in the sky there.
Good! Backside's clear.
Rocket out!
So you saw there, you've got the SWIC boats laying waste to the bad guys with their mini guns and their 50 cals, which is awesome. The SWIC boats are incredible, a very powerful asset that we have in the Navy's arsenal. They never do show what happened with the drone, so I do wonder. It would have been a really difficult landing to try to land it in that ship. They have a very small landing area. They basically crash land, so the pilot would have to fly it back in under manual control and crash it into the boat. If it gets wet, it's ruined, can't be used again. When it does crash, it tends to break apart in little pieces so that no individual piece gets damaged. It's designed to break apart. So then you have to worry about the individual parts going into the water. That's probably too much of a pain in the butt to even address in this video for the exfil, so they just left it out. That's not very realistic. You would have to do something with that drone. Now, only thing I can think there is as the wounded SEAL is getting into the water, he's probably thinking, can't let SWIC see me bleed. got to be tough in front of the SWIC guys. So that's realistic too. The SEALs are never gonna let the SWIC or the techs see them bleed or be hurt or anything like that. They got to stay hardcore. One thing that you might have seen there is there are other aerial shots that are cinematic, not drone shots, just the actual camera that we're seeing as the viewer overhead. And you might have noticed that the video quality looks very similar from that shot to the drone shot. I will say the Ravens video is very poor quality. It's very low resolution. You can barely see what you're seeing, even when the aircraft is close to the ground like that. So that's one more thing that I got to ping this one on as far as not being realistic, is the Raven video, if you're actually looking at it, is very, very, very low resolution.
Hey, quick question.
What's that?
Where'd you get that shirt?
Oh, where did I get this shirt?
Yeah, that's what I asked.
Oh, ScuttleButtShow.com, the official source for all the Scuttlebutt Show merch. Hashtag Super Legit t-shirts are available there right now. You can get hats, socks, coffee cups, you name it, all available at ScuttleButtShow.com. Go check it out today. Okay, this next film is Captain Phillips. Captain Phillips is another movie featuring the Navy, where Navy SEALs rescued Captain Phillips from Somali pilots when his ship was taken over. And in there's a great sequence with the Scan Eagle aircraft. So let's take a look at this. So that scene from Captain Phillips is definitely one of the most unrealistic scenes in any movie ever involving a drone, because it's meant to be real. And when Scan Eagle, which is made by a company called In Situ, which is owned by Boeing, is flying around, you have to understand that that aircraft will be flying probably a mile away from the ship, thousands of feet above the ground. And in this clip, the aircraft is basically dive bombing the ship. Obviously, we talked about earlier, burning the target, giving away its position, and it's also a completely impossible way for the camera on that aircraft to look at the target. The camera likes to look out of the side of the aircraft and orbit around it. When you're flying directly at your target, the camera actually can't see the target very well. And it's also not that agile of an aircraft. It likes very wide, slow turns. I'm a qualified Scan Eagle pilot, and I taught people how to fly Scan Eagle. This is a horrible example of Scan Eagle. And if we take a look at the screen where you actually see the metadata from the aircraft, or the aircraft's position and altitude and all of that stuff, we can see on this one, they really didn't even try. They honestly didn't even put in any effort. We have a crosshair in the center of the screen. We have the time in military time, the date, April 9th, 2009, when the Captain Phillips incident occurred. It just says Scan Eagle on it. ID number 678, which is not even creative. It's just 3 numbers in order. Every aircraft has an identifying number. It is realistic to have that on the screen, but that's just not how it is. And at the bottom right there, it says, apparently the aircraft's going 43.8 miles per hour. In aviation, we would measure speed in knots, so that's completely unrealistic. And what seems to be, I believe, a north arrow identifying which direction is north. But again, this is one of by far the worst examples of a drone flying around in a movie ever. I have to give this one 0 marks for realism, and even 0 marks for creativity. It is true that Scan Eagle was on station during the Captain Phillips incident and did provide ISR for the Navy, because the Scan Eagle can be launched and recovered from ships or pretty much anywhere in the world. It's a runway independent aircraft, meaning it can take off and land anywhere. It doesn't need much. But this example of the Scan Eagle is not very good at all. By the way, fun fact, the actual Scan Eagle used in the Captain Phillips rescue mission is on display at the Navy SEAL Museum in Florida, if you guys ever want to go see it. Okay, last on our list for today is Good Kill, starring Ethan Hawke, who plays a Reaper pilot at a Nellis Air Force Base near Las Vegas, Nevada. They're out there flying drones over the Middle East, Pakistan, Iraq, Afghanistan. And one thing about this movie that I want to point out is this goes down in my book as one of the worst military movies of all time, one of the most unrealistic military movies of all time. Almost everything involving the drones in this film is completely out of touch with reality. Some stuff is good, most of the stuff is bad. Some of the stuff that I remember from this is laughably bad, and I have to give this one bad marks right off the bat. But let's see one of the first scenes in this film.
Nothing explodes quite like explosives.
One IED factory going out of business.
So what he said there, which by the way is it's got to be some of the worst dialogue in a military movie of all time. Nothing explodes quite like explosives. So what he's referring to when he says one IED factory going out of business, what they're saying is that this building that they're looking at with the drone footage is an IED factory, somewhere that they're making bombs and making HME, homemade explosives, IEDs, S vests or suicide vests, anything that goes boom basically. And when you strike a place like that with a bomb, it ignites all the explosives inside and you get what are called secondaries. Secondaries are just all the explosions that follow the initial blast that you created with your missile, rocket, bomb, whatever it is. And it's like it can be like the 4th of July. It can be pretty epic. You can have these things going on for 30 minutes afterwards, firing in all directions. It can be pretty catastrophic to the buildings around it. It's really hard to predict what's going to happen, but yes, it can be pretty bad.
As soon as he comes back from taking the last piss of his life, we smoke him.
So one thing right there is the person that they're watching went to go relieve himself on the corner of the building there. That's actually really realistic. I've seen people go to the bathroom every way that you can imagine. I've seen people do all kinds of things that I wish I never had to see, but it's a part of the process of staying, looking at a building, looking at the same people for hours or days on end. You're going to see that kind of stuff, especially in the Middle East where people relieve themselves outdoors on the side of a building pretty commonly.
We are cleared hot. Light them up. Warheads on foreheads.
Warheads on foreheads is a saying that's probably been around since the invention of warheads, I imagine. I remember hearing that back in the day in 2004 when I was stationed on the Ronald Reagan. Our CO said, our mission is to put warheads on foreheads. So yes, that is something that people say, but it's definitely cringeworthy at the same time.
Damn it. Damn it, I lost the link. The Reaper's on autopilot.
Reaper and automatic holding pattern, figure 8, deconflicted altitude.
Get it back.
So what he's saying there, all remote aircraft have link, right? They have to connect the pilot to the aircraft. Reapers are flown via satellite communications. So losing link is actually very common for all these types of aircraft. They have pre-programmed autopilot behavior. So when you lose link, you can lose video, you can lose communication and control of the aircraft, or both at the same time. You can have a total loss of link. So what'll happen is after a pre-programmed amount of time, which I don't think passed in the amount of time that we were seeing this happen here, it kind of happened quickly. The aircraft will go into autopilot and start flying some pre-programmed pattern. In this case, she said figure 8s over the target, which means that the aircraft will assume a safe altitude and fly a safe pattern while they try to get link back. If a pilot can't get link back with an aircraft for too long, then what will happen is the aircraft will fly itself away from the target to either a pre-programmed landing or crashing position so that it can be recovered without getting into the hands of the enemy or damaging any people or property. That's pretty realistic. It's actually a very common and very annoying thing to have happen.
I am trying. All right, I've got it. We're back on. Laser on.
There are troubleshooting procedures you can do as the pilot to try to get link back. He probably followed some kind of checklist. I don't know what he was doing with the ball there. That probably is nothing. That's just for the movie. But yes, there are procedures pilots will do when they lose link with an aircraft to try to get it back. That's realistic too.
Painting the target.
Both Hellfires.
I've got 2 tickets to paradise. Won't you pack your bags with me tonight?
So when he says both Hellfires, that always cracks me up because Hellfires are not massively destructive weapons. They can take out a small building like this. They can definitely do some damage. But I promise you, if 2 Hellfires hit that building, there's a really good chance it'll still be standing at the end of this. The people will probably be killed, the people standing outside with the weapons, but that building will probably be standing. The best chance they have of taking out that building is if the secondaries or the explosives inside blow it up. But Hellfires are a medium grade weapon that are mainly designed for disabling vehicles, small buildings, and targeted strikes on people, not destruction of entire buildings.
Master arm on. Weapons hot.
Rifle when ready.
3, 2, 1. Rifle. Missiles off the rail.
God damn it, what's that?
Shit.
Time of flight.
7 seconds.
Aboard?
Negative. Impact 3 seconds.
Run, you little shits.
So one thing that's realistic here is the procedures that they went through for firing. They were lasing the target or painting the target, basically marking the location on the ground, the range and bearing so that they can fire the missile very accurately. Reapers, Predators, weapon systems armed with Hellfires are actually very accurate when they are able to target something and get a laze, get a good acquisition, that you can pretty much expect that the missile is going to hit where it's supposed to. Now, what happened here is some kids just ran into frame, and that's because these pilots have what I would call tunnel vision. They've been zoomed into this target for too long. Normally what you do as an ISR pilot is you zoom in on different locations until you find the target you're looking for. Once you have found the target you're looking for and have positive identification, you want to zoom back out to a wide field of view, as wide as you can, where you can still see what's going on at the target you're looking at, but see what's going on around it too. It's for exactly this purpose, is so you don't have kids run in who are playing with a little wheel, run into your shot, and now you're going to potentially have civcasts on your hands, civilian casualties. So these pilots got sucked into the target. They weren't paying attention to the broader picture. They didn't have great situational awareness. So now they're in this tough situation where they've already fired a missile and kids just ran into the shot, which they would normally call off the strike, but it seems like it's too late.
Get the fuck.
That explosion actually looked super realistic. That is the best explosion that I've seen. If I could give this movie props for one thing, it's that that explosion was very realistic looking.
Where are they?
So after a strike, after any strike, the ISR asset, the drone on station, is going to want to do BDA, or battle damage assessment. You're going to want to make sure that your target's been destroyed. If you're trying to kill people, you want to make sure that those people have been killed, that they didn't squirt, that they're not squirters, or that they are not able to walk away from that kind of strike. Believe it or not, it wouldn't be uncommon for somebody to walk away from that kind of strike. It does happen. Unfortunately here, it looks like we've got 2 bodies of civilian casualties, kids, which is very unfortunate, but it's a reality of armed conflict, is that this kind of thing is going to happen.
Master, off. Weapon safe.
One thing that they do there that I like, that they show right as that clip ended, is Ethan Hawke, even though this is obviously a very traumatic event for him, he has to, as the pilot, compartmentalize it right now and follow procedures, because he still has an aircraft in the sky. He just launched a missile. He has to fly that aircraft. He's a pilot. That's his job first. So all the emotion, he has to compartmentalize, deal with that later. His job right now to deal with that aircraft and potentially move to the next target. He might get tasking right now to go to another target and perform another strike. That's routine operations for these drone pilots, these armed drone asset pilots, to handle this kind of thing. So I do understand what they're going through when they have difficult days like this out there, but they're still in the United States, in Las Vegas, flying these things. So that's why we give the Air Force a hard time. They're not on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan flying these drones. But they are doing a great job saving lives and taking out bad guys, putting warheads on foreheads every day. All right, guys, thanks for watching that video. If you liked it, feel free to subscribe, like this video, drop a comment. I'd love to hear what drone scenes in movies are your favorite and which ones you'd like to see me break down next. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. I look forward to talking to you really soon. I'm out for now.
What's up, guys? Thanks for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button up in the corner here and check out this next video. If you want, in the description down below, there's links where you can get ScuttleButt Show merch and find out how you can support the channel. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to talking to you guys very soon.